the March 8th, 2021 meeting of the Traffic and Public Safety Commission to order. Roll call. Amanda.
Yes. Chair Brian Grover.
Present.
Vice Chair Marty Benson.
Here.
Mary Schultz.
Here.
Michael von Neumann.
Here.
Glenn Johnson.
Present.
Robert Prendergast.
Here.
Matthew Loker.
Here.
All right. Thank you, Amanda. Looks like we've got everybody, some new faces. Abe, item 4, special presentations, proclamations, and announcements. New commissioners.
Yes, Chair. Thank you. Abe Bandigan, City Traffic Engineer. Yeah, with the new assignment from the City Council and Mayor, we now have 2 new commissioners. I mean, we kind of did the introduction before the official start of the meeting, but I thought it would be a good opportunity for our new commissioners to introduce themselves, and our commissioners maybe spend a minute or two, give a little bit of background of who they are and where they're from in the city and their interests, kind of like a a welcoming, I don't know, 5 minutes to our new commissioners to kind of warm up the traffic commission.
Yeah, no, that's a great idea, Abe.
So I don't know if you want to start with our current commissioners and then go to our new commissioners, or however you want to do it. I tried talking to our commissioners in advance. Our new commissioners, I think I only got the chance to talk to Matt, and I wasn't successful in talking to both. But yeah, I think this should be good enough. I mean, a few minutes we'll talk about like what the commission does and how you feel about the commission, and then the new commissioners would have the opportunity to express their concerns and how they were interested in joining us.
Okay, so who do you want to go first, Abe? The new commissioners or the current commissioners?
I think it would be better if you guys start. They'll have some better talking points, I guess, if you start.
Okay, who wants to start?
I'll start.
Go for it.
My name is Michael von Neumann. I live in New Encinitas near Mountain Vista and Willow Spring Drive near the Daniel Junior High. I think I've been on the commission for 2 years or 2.5 years, something like that. What motivated me to get involved with the commission was basically the issues of traffic, speeding cars, and unsafe roads, or what I perceive to be unsafe roads. I'm a hardcore bicycle rider, and I've ridden on the roads in town for 100,000 miles or so. So I have a pretty good idea of what's going on traffic-wise. So I think it's important to make our roads safer for alternative modes of transportation and pedestrians. And hopefully, if they are safer for those alternative modes of transportation, then people might rely less on automobiles. I know it's a big goal or a big wish, but I think it can happen. So that's me.
I'll go next. I'm Mary Lou Schultz, and I live in Leucadia, the northern part, where we have a very long petition from my neighborhood. I've lived here since 1971. I taught school at Pawlecki, at all the West Side schools, Pawlecki, Pacific View, Capri, Ocean Knoll. And I ride my bike pretty much everywhere, or I walk pretty much everywhere. I use maybe less than a tank of gas a month, which is really kind of nice because it gives me money to do other things with my money. And I'm very committed to alternative transportation. I strongly support Leucadia's streetscape. And I want to make our roads safer, and starting with having reduced speed limit. I have been converted over to understanding the issues of parking, and I have come around to Matt's point of view. So maybe Matt, you can go next. Marty, I mean.
All right. I'm Marty Benson. I live in Old Encinitas, and I came onto the Traffic Commission basically out of a place of bicycling advocacy with a specific bent towards equity. And so my focus is primarily on using non-motorized transportation as a tool as opposed to a toy. I think the recreational cycling and whatnot is super important in terms of creating a critical mass of people who are in the street on non-motorized vehicles. But what really gets me going is mode shift. And I am an acolyte of Donald Shoup. That's what Mary's talking about. I am a staunch supporter of performance-priced parking as a way to stop subsidizing the richest people in town, put very simply, and to discourage super long free storage of people's unused private property. So that's basically me.
All right. Thanks, Marty. Glenn?
Okay, let's see, the first time I saw Encinitas was in the 1940s when there was a Noah's Ark park north of Acadia. And about 35 years ago, I moved down here, lived in Acadia for a while. Now I'm living in Old Encinitas, just south of the Botanic Garden. My interest here is I've seen the growth of traffic, and my field of interest is I'm a computer scientist, so I understand things like modeling, and I see the traffic growth, and so I studied several of the old circulation plans. I have the original circulation element and the documents that led into the production of it. And I'm really interested in updating the circulation element to agree with the way people now get around. We should have done this 10 years ago. What else have I got to say? Traffic is my big concern. And I say slow it down. If someone wants to travel at freeway speeds, there's a freeway for that.
All right. Thanks, Glenn. Amen on that last one. Well, I'll go and then I'll let our two new commissioners speak, and I'll be brief. My name is Brian Grover. I live in Leucadia. I've been here for the past 15 years. I've been on this commission for about 5 years, and prior to joining the Traffic and Public Safety Commission, or whatever we're called now, I guess we'll figure that out later, I served on the city's Environmental Commission for 5 years. I was motivated to join the Traffic and Public Safety Commission, mostly just kind of similar to what others have said. I bike a lot. I bike for recreation on weekends. I bike for utility during the week. I bike to work most of the time. I work in downtown Encinitas. I formerly served as the chair of a local bike ped advocacy group called Bike Walk Encinitas. And yeah, those are kind of my motivations and my interests. So without further ado, why don't we hear a little bit about Robert and Matthew?
Let it rip, Matthew.
Yeah, hi. So I'm Matt Lecker. Nice to meet everybody. I'm Cardiff rep, I guess, or the Cardiff commissioner. I guess a little bit about me. I'm relatively new to Encinitas and to California in general, and this has been the least pedestrian and bike-friendly place I've ever lived by a lot. I used to live in Boston and New York, and I grew up outside Chicago, and all of which are much, much, much easier places to live without a car. So this has been kind of a shock. We moved out here and immediately had to buy a second car, which is something I wasn't entirely planning on, but there was kind of no way for my wife and I to both commute to work without one. So kind of coming from that viewpoint, would love to see the city become more bike friendly. I know that's a big focus, but also there's a lot of places without sidewalks that aren't very pedestrian friendly. I'm coming from this also as dad with 2 little kids, and just kind of biking around with 2 little kids can sometimes be a very scary experience in Encinitas. So yeah, that's part of what got me interested, and certainly interested to hear more about these concepts of equity and how that interrelates to what we're doing that Marty brought up. This sounds very interesting. So thanks.
Bob Prendergast. I live in Leeuwenhoek, kind of in the back part off of Fortuna Ranch Road in Lone Jack. moved to the city in '03 from Los Angeles, where I was living since '89. I'm in commercial real estate, and so for me, it's always been the combination of traffic and development. There's quite a few projects as the city grows with the housing element and the traffic concerns that I have that will be generated by the future development. And then living back here in Levenheim, it's safety. It's fire life safety. It's exit and ingress and egress out of this part. We have floods on Lone Jack, and we have fires back here. And so a lot of it is looking at safety and how that then translates into cars on Lone Jack, traffic on Rancho Santa Fe Road as the cut through traffic from Carlsbad kicks in. So I come with a perspective on and trying to look at traffic as part of a way to work with the development and the growth of the city. I think traffic is going to be key to that. And, safety from Levenheim. And clearly my perspective while in Levenheim is for the entire city and to make sure that I understand the needs of Cardiff, Leucadia, Old Encinitas, and the 101 and the businesses and clearly the traffic concerns that we have with the visitors that come through the city. So how to find that balance, that equity between those who live here and then those who come to visit to support our businesses. That's me.
Great. Well, thank you guys. It's really nice to meet you. Unless you tell us otherwise, we'll call you Bob and Matt instead of Robert and Matthew. Does that sound good?
Sounds good.
Good.
That sounds great.
Right.
Thanks, Brian.
Cool. Any questions from any of the commissioners about anything about our two new commissioners or anything else?
Welcome to both of you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, let's move on. Abe, item 4B, presentation on Rancho Santa Fe travel time analysis.
Sure. Thank you, Chair. Let me see if I can share the presentation. Do you see the?
Yep.
Okay. So this is a presentation on the Rancho Santa Fe travel time analysis. As you recall, probably around a year ago, Councilmember Mosca takes this item to City Council, requesting Council dedicate funds for a study to be conducted on Rancho Santa Fe corridor to evaluate the travel time. The reason at that point, it was pre-COVID during the past couple of years that if you're familiar with the area, the delay during AM peak and PM peak was excessive and people had to stay on Rancho Santa Fe for 20, 30, 40 minutes during peak periods at times. And the concern from the residents was conveyed to Councilman Mosca, and he wanted to analyze and find out what is causing this situation on Rancho Santa Fe and how we can make things better. Council accepted that $50,000 was set aside for a study. We hired a consultant. The consultant conducted this study, and there was a steering committee, a small group of community representatives. I'm not sure how they were selected, but the group at times were like 6, 7, 8, 9 residents, less than 10. We had multiple meetings. By we, I mean I myself and the consultant and Councilmember Mosca with the steering committee. And we had a lot of input from them. There were surveys that the steering committee conducted among the neighborhood. There was a big participation, I think more than hundreds of inputs they received from the residents. And we received the summary of the input. So I'll go over what the consultant presented at the last community meeting that we had, which is a summary of what had happened during the past 5-6 months that the study was underway. The study is now at around 90%. It's almost completed. Since this is a council initiated item and council did not direct us to bring this to Traffic Commission, This doesn't need to be a agenda item. So, but because I wanted to take it to City Council in near future, with having the input from the Traffic Commission, I brought it here as a presentation only item, but obviously we can receive the input from the commission, and I will include those, the feedback and the input in my future presentation to City Council. So that was the background of what this item is. What the consultant did, the goal, we gave them the goal, it was the long travel time along the stretch and the high delay, especially during peak periods. What they modeled using Synchro was 7 always stop control intersections, and all the other non-controlled intersections that were in the area in the 1 mile long corridor. Out of the surveys they conducted, they collected speed data, they collected travel time, they collected volume, turning movements. They collected a lot of information to use for their modeling. And one of their findings was at 5 of those always stop control intersections, the side street volume was really low. The purpose of the study, as mentioned, was to see how we can reduce the travel time and delay along the stretch, and at the same time assure that we're not really increasing the speed as much, and safety is not compromised. So it might feel a little bit conflicting, but the goal was to try to maintain a low speed and not really create like a freeway on a relatively urban road that is somewhat residential in nature. So these are from Google that shows the travel time during AM and PM peaks. As you can see, and you're probably familiar, during morning, southbound is way more congested. We not only have the traffic from Encinitas residents, but we also have the county and Carlsbad traffic coming using Rancho Santa Fe going toward the freeway. In the afternoon, the peak is almost reversed. Everything northbound is now congested, and the delay is almost even more in afternoon compared to morning. Some photos from the Rancho Santa Fe area that shows the cross-section elements. Some areas we have some small medians. It's mostly 1 lane in each direction. Some areas we have some turn pockets, not a continuous 2-way left turn lane along the stretch. Not that many turn pockets. I think only like 2 or 3 intersections have turn pockets. The rest is just 1 lane in each direction. No clean sidewalk or any kind of a clean bike lane. There is an edge line that can be used, but some more photos. So this is the existing model that, as you can see, it's broken into 2 separate pieces, but the one big one and one smaller one on the left are for morning peak hour, and the bigger one and the smaller one on the right are for the PM peak hour. And there is a match line that kind of connects. They didn't have room to create one single image, but it's the same thing. It technically connects at the match line. So you can see all the volumes, and you can see those red dots represent the stop signs that we currently have at those intersections. All the intersections were modeled, and they were not modeled standalone individually. They were modeled all together to evaluate queues and delays and the car following and everything. And then the black numbers that you can see are the volumes of traffic during those peak periods that are utilizing those intersections. These are the average daily traffic and the lane classifications. As you can see, it's up until Lone Jack, the volume north of it is around 15,000. right around Lone Jack and El Camino del Norte, the volume kind of drops to 12,000. Seems like around 3,000 goes toward the county using the El Camino del Norte and Lone Jack. But the volume is about 12 to 15,000 along this stretch at different segments. So the consultant evaluated multiple different scenarios, I believe 9 scenarios, and at each scenario, they modeled how the whole corridor would operate if we make changes to the corridor. Those changes were eliminating some of the stop signs, adding signals at some intersections, adding roundabouts at some intersections, and technically playing with these different traffic control devices that we had and putting them at locations that had merit and see how these changes can potentially change the travel time along the corridor, the goal being reducing delay. So out of the 9 scenarios that they evaluated, and there were rounds and rounds of community input and outreach and steering committee input and feedback. So the final scenario that was selected, preferred by the neighborhood, by the community, was not the most effective one, which was, I believe, one signal or 2 signals at Lone Jack and Camino del Norte, and eliminating 2 or 3 of the stop signs that had very low volume side streets. Reason for that was community character, how signals might not be perfect solutions for the corridor, how eliminating those stop signs, although beneficial to travel time with lowering delay, can be a point of concern for the residents of those minor streets, because at peak periods, if those stop signs are gone, they might not be able to make comfortable turns on and off Rancho Santa Fe. I said there were lots of surveys done, there were lots of community input, several meetings. I think we had like 6 or 7 meetings with the steering committee, 3 meetings with the residents. And this alternative that you can see on the right, which is basically keeping the stop signs in place, but converting 2 of them to roundabouts at Camino del Norte and Lone Jack, became the preferred scenario by the community. And don't get me wrong, these were still beneficial. I think I have the numbers here. They do improve travel time by a lot. So they do address our concern of high congestion and delay. They're not just the top scenario among the 9, but they were, I think, the second or third top scenario. So these are some of the concept designs for the roundabouts. They're in no way complete. They're nor finalized. There's no engineering drawing associated with them. Drainage is not looked at. Elevations. These are technically just sketches. The next step I will get at the end of the presentation. The next step would be to present this to council, and considering the high price tag of roundabouts, this needs to be blessed by council, and council would have to direct staff to continue with the feasibility analysis and potential design, which would need its own funding. So that's a different story if this is supported by council and council wants to set aside money for the potential design of these. That's a different story. These are some similar roundabouts that we have in town. The dimensions that we can achieve there with the right-of-way that we have, the consultant feels like we can do something similar to what we're doing on Hermes, what we have on Hermes and what we're doing on Jimeras. It's some sort of a similar dimension, I guess, based on their preliminary analysis. It seems like we have room for something similar. This is Jimeras. And this is what would happen if we convert those two intersections that we have on Lone Jack and El Camino del Norte, the current stop signs, to the new situation, which will be, if approved and built, the two roundabouts. As you can see, with the conversion of those two intersections to roundabout, our morning peak, which was 16.2 minutes based on the models for southbound, would convert to 8.8 minutes, which is almost cutting it in half. Northbound, which is not really congested in the morning, will not improve much, obviously, because it's not really congested. Level of service is pretty good in the morning for northbound anyway. So from 5.5 goes to 5.2. Similar for PM, there is improvement for southbound. The improvement is minimal, 5.5 to 5.4. But northbound, which is the problem during evening, goes from 18.7 to 14.7, which is around 30%, 25% improvement, which is a lot for the huge amount of traffic that uses Rancho Santa Fe. These are the level of service, the conditions that we have there. As you can see, the existing, the Lone Jack /11th, currently both AM and PM peaks, the level of service is unacceptable. It's E or F, in this case it's F. And with the roundabout, it becomes acceptable. I don't remember off of the model what exactly the level of service will be, but we usually consider D or above acceptable. And a similar case with El Camino del Norte. The good thing about that is the level of service at El Camino del Norte is currently acceptable. It's not F, but the level of service will improve with the roundabout. There's also a potential improvement at Cala Cervo, La Posta, where we have the room to add an extra northbound lane for the evening peak direction for the northbound, where by increasing the capacity of the intersection, because this did work as a bottleneck when we first ran the models. Even if we add the two roundabouts, we'll have a bottleneck here because of the limited capacity of one lane northbound. But the consultant checked and seems like we have the capacity there to increase the number of lanes to two to be able to flush out the volume that's coming northbound during evening peak easier. There's also another improvement that we came up with. There is a trail that is currently in the works to be built very soon on the east side of Rancho Santa Fe. What we were thinking about with the congestion relief that these two potential roundabouts will bring, even if the roundabouts are not built, what we can do is to narrow down the travel lanes. The lanes are currently relatively wide. You can see the existing cross section up there. We are thinking about narrowing down the lanes and using the extra width to form some sort of a walkway or a shared use path on the two sides of the road. If the walkway, if the trail is built on the east side, our goal is to move every extra feet, every extra room we have, all of it to the west side, so we can have a relatively wide area on the west side that is comfortable to be used by pedestrians, by bicyclists, by horses. But you get the idea from here. We just want to shave a few feet from the existing wide travel lanes and move them to the edge of the road to create a wider space. This bottom scenario is what I was talking about. If the trail is built, then we can have 7 to 10 feet of width on the west side of Rancho Santa Fe to be used for walking or biking, or, I mean, we have to think about how we want to mark it, but that's basically what we're after if the trail goes out to for construction. There was also the idea about forming some sort of a mid-block crossing with RFB, maybe a raised crossing, speed table of some sort to help with traffic calming where we don't have a traffic control in place, where we're kind of far from the nearest stop sign. We did reach out to the community to find out what would be a good location where people tend to cross to identify a potential location there. This location south of Morning Sun Drive was identified. I also know that we reached out to the steering committee to ask for other potential locations. I think Councilmember Mosca is asking input from the steering committee to see if there are other locations that have the potential to become a mid-block crossing, raised or just a marked crossing with RFV. These are some of the summary of the recommendations: the restriping of the roadway, the 2 roundabouts, the restriping of Avenida La Pasta at Rancho Santa Fe, and the mid-block crossing south of Morning Sun Drive. The report is being written. It's not finalized. We will incorporate all the input that we have received and we will receive from the community in the report. As mentioned, I'm very proud of how much public involvement and community outreach we had with this study. I think the residents are happy with, hearing a lot about this and receiving a lot of newsletters and having a lot of meetings with the steering committee and with the consultant and myself. But then again, this is in nowhere final because this has not been reviewed by the city council, and the city council has not blessed the idea yet. The roundabouts are at the moment just concepts. They're modeling concepts. They're at the planning level. There is not even a preliminary engineering done on them. So I don't want to, create a wrong expectation that these are done deals or we will be building roundabouts there. At this point, they're just concepts. But I thought before taking this to council and present the information, it would be good to present this to Traffic Commission and hear your thoughts. And if you have any input, if you have any comments that you want me to express to council, I'll be happy to hear your thoughts. That being said, this is the end of the presentation and I'm open to hearing questions.
Thank you, Abe. Commissioner Benson.
Abe, I have a couple of questions. I think this all looks really great and it'll surprise no one that I'm very in favor of narrowing lanes, both because it helps in and of itself slow down traffic, but also when you can give that space to human beings, that's a wonderful thing. But my question is specifically about the roundabouts. Were they looked at individually such that I believe the Lone Jack one, that intersection is more of a problem and the improvement is more drastic on that specific intersection? And I know I love roundabouts too, and I know that they're very expensive. Would it still provide a similar benefit if it were done as a standalone improvement and the Del Norte intersection stayed a 4-way stop?
I would answer separate. The question was bifold, I guess. The first one, they modeled the intersections, all of them together. So each scenario, although included different controls for different intersections, none of the models were ran at an individual standalone to say, okay, if we convert this intersection to this new control, the change would be this much. So the changes that they're reporting, even for a individual intersection, is based on the whole corridor changing. So they changed the whole corridor, but then reported the change that you will see at an intersection level. Obviously, it has the margin of error of the modeling. It's not, it's not real life. There are a lot of things that can go wrong with models, but as accurate as it can be, they model the corridor. To your question about the Lone Jack getting a roundabout and the other one not, I believe one of the 9 scenarios was that. But then again, the community, I think the improvement, as you suggested, the improvement with for the whole corridor with the Lone Jack roundabout was more than the El Camino del Norte roundabout. So if you wanted to only pick one, if council asks, like if we only want to fund one, which one would you recommend? I would definitely say the Lone Jack. But that being said, the second roundabout together with the Lone Jack one did have extra benefits. So at this time, which technically this is, again, as I said, just a planning document, there is merit to, we're not doing any, benefit cost analysis at the moment to say like the second one is not justified or anything like that. So the second one definitely has some improvements that comes with it. But to your point, Lone Jack was more beneficial. If that answers your.
That's just sort of a scenario that I saw coming up. If budgeting this sort of project would be a problem if we could do it piecemeal. Obviously, I'm for putting both in, and I definitely see that both of them would be, would create a good deal of benefit. And then I always am curious about this. I think I know the answer to this, or maybe it's not knowable. Was there any consideration given to whether, I know that there aren't a lot of alternative routes to Rancho Santa Fe in this particular part of town. Was there any consideration given to whether increasing throughput, i.e. slowing down or decreasing delay, would actually induce more traffic to this corridor?
That is a legitimate concern, and the concept of induced demand or latent demand is proven in these cases. It's always there. So 9 out of 10 cases you don't get the exact result of the model because of that increase in volume. So after you make things better, you improve the level of service from F to D or C, let's say by increasing the number of lanes you have on the road or adding a signal that was not there before or adding a roundabout. When you make things better, you always have induced demand that will come from other locations, or even latent demand, which is the demand that was not there at all. People just see, okay, this is a nice road, let's go to downtown. They would never go to downtown before, but now they go. So there are two separate types of demand that would show up there. One is people coming from other areas because now this is a good road to use, and the other one, people who were not going out in the evening would now go because the level of service is better. And this is inevitable. This is a basic traffic engineering concept called user equilibrium, which is like demand always balances the travel time. If there is a better road, people will find a way to use it. So we told this to the councilman, to the residents, that the numbers that the models predict, like I think for PM was 18.7 going down to 14. So the 5 minute that we're anticipating this roundabout will save us, we'll probably lose some of it to this extra demand that you're talking about. But to model that, it's a lot of work and a lot of money, which, to be honest, I don't feel it's worth it.
Sure.
To find out how much of an induced demand. I mean, we can certainly go to Sandag. They can give us a better model because they have the region. And if we tell them, if we improve the level of service on Rancho Santa Fe, and if the travel time on Rancho Santa Fe improves by 20%, 30%, how much the extra volume of traffic on this corridor would be, they can't give us an idea. But would that in any way help us? I mean, there were some ideas from the residents, and I think even from I don't know, I think I heard it from a few different groups that why can't we prevent others from other cities to use our roads? I was like, well, that's not feasible. There was actually a case, interestingly, I think in LA County. I don't remember the exact case, but the state court shut it down. They did this. They installed a barrier at the border of the city, and people from the other city could not enter that road from that other city. Of course, they didn't title it, preventing people from this other adjacent city to enter. They tried to title it like a traffic engineering, project or something, but I think the state court shut it down. So you can't. The short answer is you cannot prevent others from other cities to use your roads.
Well, kudos for all of the involvement. I think that the community has come up with a good solution. I love roundabouts, and I'm definitely in favor of as many RFB mid-block crossings with hopefully raised crosswalks and for traffic calming and narrow those lanes. Thanks.
Thank you. Well, let's hear from the local, Commissioner Prendergast.
Appreciate that. A couple of things. Abe, when was the data set taken for the traffic studies in terms of the counts on the stop signs?
Good question. This did come up during the committee meetings that we had. I don't know the exact date, but I'm pretty sure your concern is the same as the community. It was after COVID or before. It was before pandemic. Right. The data was collected before pandemic.
It was. There was also a couple questions during the committee's meetings about the time of day. I use that road often, and sometimes around 3:30, it will back up all the way to Town Hall. And I believe the data set was taken more peak, normal peak between 4 and 6. Is that right?
I don't remember if it was exactly the 2 hours, but it might have been. Usually we don't consider 3:30 as peak. If somebody asks a consultant to go, do a survey during peak, they usually do 4 to 7. If they want to do 3 hours, if they want to do 2 hours, they usually do 4 to 6. So it's very well possible that the data collection was between 4 and 6.
Yeah, I bring that up because there are 2 schools, obviously, at Calia Cervo. There's Degano and OPE. So the traffic cycles are long. Not only is there the work traffic that's cutting through, which all changed when Rancho Santa Fe came down from Carlsbad, and they straightened that out to make 6 lanes. But you also have the school traffic and the school pickup time. So it's a bit elongated in a very narrow section. And then lastly, as it relates to the trails narrowing or widening and the roads narrowing, we've got horses, and a lot of people do use horses. It's not quite the alternative mode of transportation to go to work that folks are using, but there are a lot of horses in Alevinheim, and they do use the trails, and they're shared. So we've got school traffic, kids going to school along a very trafficked location. So clearly, possibly the crosswalk between Morning Glory and Calia Cervo could be helpful because you've got kids going to both sides and riding their bikes to school. I'm sure they're doing that at Palecki and all the other elementary schools also. So it's a very busy road, and there's a safety concern there also. There's no railing along Rancho Santa Fe Road, which you might have in other locations, and we're kind of used to those to separate us from the traffic on Lone Jack. So I appreciate it. It's been a very good study, and everybody was very involved in the conversation. So thank you.
Thank you. Other commissioners?
Johnson here. I went to the first meeting of the RSF Road Task Force, and their requirement there was to get out of the half hour to an hour delay in each direction without widening the road, because obviously we can't buy more right of way without huge disruption to the community. So this represents the best kind of progress we can make, short of eminent domain.
You're right.
Okay. Commissioner Von Neumann.
Commissioner Von Neumann here. Yeah. I'm pretty impressed with the work that the community did and the selection that they picked. I can pretty much, very well support that. I was impressed with the fact that they didn't want to take out more stop signs. I was also impressed that they were not in favor of traffic signals, because that just increases volume and speed. I do like, during this whole process, did everyone start with the understanding or have the understanding that really the culprit of all this additional traffic is not Encinitas residents? And while Encinitas cannot prohibit other people from entering Encinitas and roads, I don't think we have an obligation to make it easier for non-residents to get through our town. So the fact that the stop signs are staying in and everything, I think kind of speaks toward that, and I'm impressed with that.
Yeah, I think Abe was at all those meetings, and I think the net was community character was important, Michael, and they didn't want the stop signs or the stop lights, and they all knew that by having the stop lights, you could increase flow. And I think community character component was a big part of it. And yes, other people are using it, but we use it too. And we need to get in and out. As you know, Lone Jack is a single point of entry, ingress and egress. So we all get it. And, you know, we're trying to figure out that balance, the latent demand issue that Abe brought up is, gosh, you make it faster and more people will use it. It's a fine line, I'm sure.
Other commissioners? All right. Well, I'll just very briefly comment on this. You know, I agree with what most everyone else has said. I think, you know, it's not our commission's role to be making budget decisions, thankfully. So, you know, I think what staff has proposed, obviously there's a traffic issue on Rancho Santa Fe. You know, regardless of what's causing it, whether it's out of town drivers or, you know, residents of Encinitas or whatever it might be. You know, I think that this proposed solution is good. I think it's better for circulation in general, including during non-peak periods, to have those roundabouts in there. I don't know why so many stop signs got put in a row in the first place. I thought we learned from what Del Mar did in that regard. But yeah, I think staff's proposal is a good one. And I would support that going to council, and they can make the budgetary type decisions and the priorities and those sorts of things. So does anybody want, I guess we don't need a motion on this, right, Abe? It's just informational. You just wanted
Correct.
to hear our thoughts and the discussion. So if you've got enough, we can carry on unless anybody else wants to comment.
Thank you.
Okay. Hearing none, we can move on. Item 4C, updates on safety and mobility projects citywide.
Yes, Chair. This is my regular updates on various traffic items going on in the city. The first one, my understanding from our previous meeting, the legacy, I guess, of Commissioner Lushness is that we just attached this summary of land development projects that I'm getting from our associate engineer, Bob Grolka, about the development projects that are going on, and then the status update of what the review status is and at what stage of the process they are. And if commission needs more information about any of these projects, or if there's any other project that the commission needs information on or presentation on, I'll ask him to come at the next meeting and bring whatever information the commission needs. But that was I think the consensus of the commission not to go over this list at every meeting. So the attachment is there, and again, let me know if you need a more complete, comprehensive presentation on any of the projects. The second one, the South Coast Highway 101 improvements. Some of the improvements, I don't know if we talked last month, some of the improvements went in. We did some pavement legend work, some strapping work. We were directed by commission to increase the number of bicyclists may use full lane legends and the speed limit legends, which I do know that the work order were placed. I'm not sure if they're done, but they're in the queue. We are improving a bunch of other stuff. The two bus stops that were gone. We're waiting for some new bollards to come in. The bollards were ordered, but they're like a custom made order. So we're a little bit delayed on receiving those. As soon as the bollards come in, we will continue the remaining improvements on 101. The Olivenhain restriping with our citywide annual CIP, the maintenance project and the slurry project. We did the slurry Olivenhain. I'm not sure if it was slurry or was a rehab. We totally rebuilt the road. But either way, we had a clean road to restripe it. And what we did was we narrowed down the travel lanes on Olvenhain, and we increased the bike lane width and the buffer width. So now we have a very nice, clean, visible, I guess it's super wide. In some areas, it's like 5, 6, 7 feet wide. In some areas, on Olvenhain, the considering how fast Olvenhain Road is, I think this wide buffer can help a lot with improving, how a good buffer zone is created between the outer lane and the bike lane, and make people feel more comfortable using that bike lane because of the wider buffer. The North Coast 101 striping, this is a project that, as you recall, it was like 3-4 years ago when this was first brought to commission, somehow fell through the cracks after I started, and then we brought it back to commission a few months back. And we are working on a new design for North 101. As soon as we finalize the design, the goal is to add a bunch of new improvements on North 101. Hopefully we can add a new bike lane all the way. The fact that the streetscape was phased, now we know that we only have phase 1, and that the other phases, since they're far out, we thought it would be a good opportunity to use this opportunity that we have to redo the striping on 101 and create a clean bike lane all the way for northbound, and do a bunch of other stuff like adding some similar legends that we did on South 101. The bicyclists may use full lane legends and some new speed limit legends. And with that, also add this crosswalk on A Street that we talked about 2 meetings ago or 3 meetings ago. So that's in the work. We should have a design ready pretty soon, and then we'll redo North 101 bike lane and that A Street crossing. Last item, not really traffic related, but this came up again last time. I think it was brought up a year or 2 ago about, I don't know if it was a commissioner concern or a residence, about traffic commission meeting minutes, including more details about, people's opinions and then concerns, and in general being more detailed. The direction we received from the city clerk's office was the same as before, that our meeting minutes, it being any kind of a commission meeting or a council meeting, should always be only action minutes. So if there is a conversation about a certain action, it will be included. But if it's just conversation or discussion about an item, it should not be included, and people and residents and commissioners should be referred to the recording of the meeting if they want to know more about what was discussed and the whole conversation about the topic. With that, I'm open to questions about these items that I updated the commission on.
Thank you, Abe. Commissioners, Commissioner Schultz.
I wonder where we are with La Costa Avenue, where you are with getting a sidewalk along there, about reducing the speed to 25 and getting it 2-laned, and when are we going to get a raised crosswalk at Sheridan and La Costa? And you knew this question was coming.
Yeah, I kind of hoped it wouldn't. It's tough when we have 7 commissioners. It will come up. So it needs an item of its own, but I'll try to keep it short. So a lot is going on. The signal design is, I would say 95% plus. The signal design is completed. The walkway on the west is completed. We have a walkway design that would connect this future signal all the way to the signal at 101. There's also a walkway that commission directed us to include, which is a on-the-road walkway similar to what we have right now on the east side of this potential signal, that would take the signal to La Costa Court, a couple hundred feet on the east side. If you recall, we had to use the existing walkway to form that westbound left turn pocket, the new westbound left turn pocket that will come with a signal from La Costa West onto southbound Vulcan. But then commission said, since the walkway is already there, it has to be put back. So that walkway is designed. We need a retaining, some sort of a wall on the south edge of La Costa to be able to widen it by like 4 or 5 feet and bring back that walkway. But that is also designed. We had a meeting with Councilmember Kranz, and he expressed concern that this signal would have to be connected to the Vulcan itself. So the south leg should have some sort of a pedestrian connection. Initially, our plan was to use the west side of Vulcan, north of Andrew, to connect people to the signal because there is a edge of the road dirt area that is usable if it's cleaned up and paved a little bit better. There is a development project, 1967 Vulcan, if I'm not mistaken, at the corner of La Costa Court. That project, from what I've heard from our development review team, is committed to building that walkway on Vulcan, on the east side of Vulcan, to connect the residences on the east side of Vulcan to this future potential signal. There would be a walkway along the road on the east side that would bring people up that curve, up that hill to this future signal. So these are the three walkways that are in design, in the works, I guess, depending on how you want to call it. And then the signal itself, there was a meeting between the upper management and City of Carlsbad. There is a some sort of a agreement between us and Carlsbad. And there is a pot of money that can be used for certain projects to improve La Costa. There are some limitations with how the money shall be utilized. They're kind of negotiating with Carlsbad. The reason this didn't go to council is we're trying to find out what the extent of using that pot of money to make certain improvements to La Costa. Because when we're going to go to council, we want to say this much of the cost associated with these different projects on La Costa will be coming from that joint pot that we have with Carlsbad, and this much of it has to be funded by the city itself, and council would have to, because none of these projects are funded, council would have to dedicate budget to it. At the same time, we're in conversation with the developer. He's committed to covering a fair share of this future signal. And obviously, as said, that the walkway is being built, they're committed to building it. So there are a lot of moving parts with this. There's also another project that I brought to commission, I would say 8-9 months ago, but it was on hold for various reasons. I'll explain a little bit on that. I think it was early 2020 where we brought a striping project for Vulcan, where it narrowed down the lanes and opened up space on the east side to form a walkway similar to what I explained on Rancho Santa Fe, but this time opening up a space on the east side, Vulcan all the way from Encinitas Boulevard to La Costa. So Encinitas Boulevard to Leucadia and Leucadia to La Costa, by narrowing the lanes and shifting the lanes toward west, opening up the space on the east, and adding 3 or 4, I think 3 speed tables, raised crosswalks on Vulcan for traffic calming. This was a condition of the streetscape project, so that when the streetscape is being built, the impact on Vulcan would be minimized. We have to incorporate some traffic calming measures, which these lane narrowings and these raised crosswalks will act as traffic calming measures. And we're also making things more comfortable for people who walk on the road because we don't have a sidewalk. So opening a space on the east side will serve that purpose. This item is also going to council very, very soon. The design is already approved. The reason it didn't go to council was, I think I did talk about this at some point a long time ago. There are a few projects going on. We have the double tracking that is not yet finalized. We don't know how it's going to end up and change the west side of Vulcan. We have the drainage study underway. The drainage is not finalized. And there's also the fate of the extension of the coastal rail trail. If it's on the east side of the rail or west side, it can drastically change things. Because of that, we didn't know if we were going to have a walkway on the west side of the road by the parking that we recently created with that agreement that we signed with NCTD, or the east side the way we have it designed right now. Because of this really limbo that we were in, we didn't know if we had to wait for those three major questions to be answered, the double tracking, the rail trail, and the drainage, or just proceed. We just recently got the green light from upper management that we can take this to council, and for now, just go for the low-hanging fruit, which is just restriping Vulcan and just moving lanes toward west, opening space on the east side and create a walkway. And the raised crosswalks and everything else also comes with it. So this is an item that will go to council maybe even sooner than signal, because that signal would need finalizing the conversation with Carlsbad before it goes to council.
So when do you see that a raised crosswalk will be put in at Sheridan and Lacoste Avenue?
The raised crosswalk at Sheridan and Lacoste, I don't think that one has been brought to Traffic Commission yet. That one we would have to bring it. The raised crosswalk I mentioned are the Vulcan ones.
When will the one on Lacoste Avenue be brought to commission?
To be honest with you, I don't think we had anything on that on the log. We had the stop sign evaluation, which we did. I'm not sure if the raise is there, but I can certainly look into it and bring this to the commission. I personally think it's not a bad idea. It does have some impact on the flow of traffic, obviously, and the fact that we don't have a walkway on the north side of La Costa, so creating a race crossing to technically nowhere at the moment can be an issue, but it certainly has benefits. I can see a lot of benefits with the traffic calming and also helping those cars turning left into and out of Sheridan. That race crosswalk can help a lot with those left turns in and out of Sheridan.
And do you see a sidewalk going in along Lacoste Avenue in the near future?
That's a big question, which I can't answer as a city traffic engineer. That's a little bit beyond my authority, I would say. That's something that a city engineer would have to. And certainly for that matter, city council even, because, you know, a sidewalk on La Costa is not a simple thing. As you know, there are a lot of encroachments there. There's a lot of, you know, it would have to, you know, we would have to touch a lot of properties there to build that sidewalk.
And when do you see the circulation element being reviewed so that Lacoste Avenue is designated as a 2-lane rather than a 4-lane?
So you're asking very hard questions tonight.
You knew they were coming, Abe.
The scope of the consultant, as you know, I'm not the project manager. I'm one of the supporting team members to the project manager. The scope of the project, the way it was drafted, classification is one of the final steps after the community outreach, after the modeling, after the cumulative impacts of all the projects of the city, the future growth of the city. There's a lot before classification. However, after city council suggested we look at La Costa a little bit more in depth and faster, what I have heard, and I received an invitation for a meeting, is we want to introduce a new task to the consultant to look at La Costa kind of on a parallel / separate task item, so that they don't have to do the whole process of modeling the whole city and check all the future projects of the city and, you know, use the Sandag models and their own models, all the community outreach. The fact that almost everybody knows that we don't want the road to become a 4-lane road, to somehow give us some sort of a recipe for improving La Costa way sooner than that. How it can work with the circulation element, how they can create some sort of a cross-section for us in advance of doing all that they're supposed to do, again, as a separate task. I'm not sure. That's what this meeting is about. We're supposed to talk to the consultant to see what their thoughts are, but the direction has been given from council to staff to visit La Costa right now and don't wait for 2 years. We want to have some sort of an answer for, hey, what is the ultimate fate of La Costa, which would answer your questions about, okay, will it have a 2-way left turn lane or not? Will it have a sidewalk? If it will, is it one side or both sides? What's going to happen to the intersections, roundabouts / signals / whatever we want to do? So all these things. But again, how this can be answered right now and still be a part of the circulation element update, that's something that is tough for me to answer right now.
We shall see, since the new hotel opens in 2 weeks, what happens on La Costa Avenue.
Yeah, but I think everybody agrees, residents, council, staff, everybody's on the same page that the city doesn't want to see a 4-lane road there. And I think that's, at least with the current council and upper management level, everybody's on the same page that the residents don't want this to become a 4-lane road, and we have to find a way to make it work.
Yeah, and it has to be done sooner rather than later.
Exactly. This has been the direction, but again, how this can work with the process of circulation element update, that's something that we have to figure out with the consultant.
Okay, thank you.
Other commissioners?
Hopefully, till the end of the night, I'm not going to have hard questions from Mary. That's your share of hard questions, Mary, tonight.
All right, Commissioner Prendergast.
Hey, Abe, when the building permit was pulled for the hotel, what in the building permit was the exaction fee for traffic support, and where did those dollars go?
Oh, even harder question. I would have to check on that. I don't know, because I don't really see those monies directly coming to the traffic engineering division. Usually, although those numbers have the title of traffic on them, but they usually go into general fund. I don't think there is like a straight pot that they come. We have the traffic mitigation fund.
Right.
But yeah, I'm not sure if the money, 100% of it comes directly to traffic mitigation, but I can check on that and report to commission next month.
Thank you.
So if they were billed $100 for traffic mitigation costs, you're saying that goes into, this might just be my naivete in terms of how the city works, but the fee was paid. Does it go into the general fund, or does it go into a specific cost item such as a traffic signal or a sidewalk that you're aware of as it relates to specifically the hotel?
So again, I can't comment the exact number, but the traffic mitigation, I think there are like 2 numbers. There's one traffic mitigation, and there is like a general number that they pay for each number of unit they built, or each number of,
right.
So there are like 2 separate numbers. The traffic mitigation that they pay, the traffic mitigation fee that they pay, a part of it, at least, if not all, goes to this traffic mitigation pool that can be used for a lot of different things. They're not usually tagged with a specific project unless it's like a condition of approval. If in the condition it says you're supposed to contribute this much, like this project on Vulcan, we have we did a calculation, they'll be tagged with like 6%, 7%. And the condition would say you're supposed to contribute 6.8% of the cost of this future signal at this location. In that case, they put the exact money to that individual account for that project. But if the mitigation money, it doesn't have a title on it, it would go into that pot, and it doesn't necessarily get spent on a project associated with that development.
So on the project that you mentioned that's going to be at La Costa Court, you talked about a retaining wall. Do you know how that is set up? Is that set up as a specific to a sidewalk or to the path, or is that just going to be a percentage of dollars that goes into the general fund?
So that condition is not finalized, but the way I think it's written or will be written is they will be conditioned to build that walkway on the east side of Vulcan. That's 100% on them. So certain conditions, they have to build that certain improvements before they get their occupancy permit. So they have to build that walkway. For the signal, since they don't have a significant impact on that intersection is already failing, and their impact is less than significant threshold, they're only responsible to contribute a fair share toward it. In that situation, we'll say you're responsible to cover 7%, for example, and it's going to be this much, and the check that they would cut to us will go to the account for that signal. But these are not the mitigation monies that you mentioned. Those mitigation monies are separate. They go to a separate fund, and they don't have a project tag on them. They're just a general money that can be used for any kind of traffic improvements in general.
Okay. And who's negotiating this? Is this going to be the council that's going to negotiate these exactions, and specifically the sidewalk that Mary's mentioned?
The fees are usually fixed numbers. I think council revisits them every year or every other year or something. The numbers are pretty fixed. The conditions, the staff negotiates with the developer, the planning team, and the engineering team. They are responsible for certain things, like their frontage improvement is always on the developer. The other improvements that you're asking them, I think the government code asks for finding a direct correlation between the improvement that you're asking from the developer with their impact. So you can ask, if you can justify the improvement, you can ask for certain improvements to say you're having an impact on the sidewalk, so you have to improve it. But you cannot go ask and say, I need a sidewalk 5 blocks away from here because you have some sort of an, but you have to be able to reasonably justify that there is a correlation between the improvement you're asking for and their impact.
So if we raise up an issue, we bring it to you, you take it to the to engineering,
the planner,
and engineering takes it to the planner. Okay.
The planner in charge is, every development project has a planner in charge. The traffic engineering and the civil side, the engineering side is just a support for that planner, but the planner is in charge.
But you review the plan. So as the city, as the developer submits the plans and it goes through plan check, you get a chance to opine. Okay.
Yes, we're one of the, I think 7 or 8 different teams, like fire reviews them. There are a lot of different teams, but the person who is in charge, who gives this to us and gets our comments from us, is the planner who is in charge and who will ultimately take the project to the planning commission.
Got it. So that's why that 4A or 4C number 1 is important, knowing what's happening from the planning commission and the planning department coming into our backyard and the impacts. We can opine, bring it to your attention, and our concerns can be addressed in totality of the project submission rather than, fighting for it after the fact. So I just understanding when we can get involved and when traffic considerations can be put to the forefront on all these development permits that are coming up.
Correct.
Okay.
And along those lines, I'm sorry, one last thing. Can you add the Goodson project to your development list? That's the intersection of Manchester and Encinitas Boulevard.
Yes, I know. Yeah, sure.
Thank you. Sorry.
All right, that's okay. Other commissioners, any questions on item 4C?
Commissioner Von Neumann here. Abe, I want to clarify, thanks for the report and the updating. I think it's really important for us and for any of the community who listens in on these meetings to get that information. So thank you for doing that. On C number 2, the South Coast Highway improvements, you mentioned that there are going to be additional may use full lane and speed limit legends applied on the road. And so that's a definite, that's coming up.
Correct. Yes.
Okay. Any time frame for that?
The bottleneck is what is governing is the arrival of the bollards. We don't want to bring the contractor in because we ordered a few more bollards for the 2 bus stops that are gone now to install, in the openings. There were like 200, 300 feet of opening. We don't want to bring the contractor in, have them do their striping work without the bollards. So as soon as the bollards arrive, we'll bring them out and have them do it.
Okay, great. And any other thoughts about some other improvements to that area, like some additional signage, like a road or street side signage that I know some people have written into you about, like suggestions about where to, how to direct certain types of bike riders and pedestrians to whatever side that they should be in? Has there been any consideration of that?
To be honest with you, I do like the idea of some sort of a good traffic control on the State Beach parking lot access by Solana Beach. I feel we can benefit a lot from a signal there. If we do the signal, we can easily do like a race crossing at the same time. That can help us the bicyclists or pedestrians or whoever is going southbound using that cycle track, currently they cannot come back northbound. So in a way, many of them are bound to just, go the opposite direction on the southbound cycle track and go northbound, because the nearest turning point is the second intersection in Solana Beach. I think it's Ocean Cove or something, the one that has a signal. The first intersection is not signalized. The second one is signalized. So they have to go around a quarter mile south to be able to make a U and come back. So if we do something at that intersection, it can certainly benefit our cyclists who want to come back to the city to make a U there. The two signals that we have, the one on Las Olas and the one at the restaurant row, the pedestrian signals that we have, we certainly can visit those for a race crossing. I think they're very good locations. As you know, a lot of times those are sitting on green. There's nobody at Las Olas who would trigger the signal to turn red, or at the restaurant row area, there's nobody there to push the button to turn those signals red. So they're just sitting on green, and it helps people to develop a speed. If we convert them to race crossings, even at the time where they are sitting on green, we have the traffic calming effect. And those are long crossings. If we raise them, they become way more visible to, unfortunately, we've never had any incident there at any of those crossings. The fact that they're signalized definitely helps. But if we raise them, I think we can benefit in a lot of different ways. Traffic calming, better visibility. So there are ideas out there, to be honest with you, with all the complications we had for this cycle track project, to take on more problems. I'd rather finish it first to, start new ideas.
Well, I appreciate that, but I was talking about like street side signage to direct people to either the cycle track or the Shero lane, some kind of prompt, so that people who want to go fast don't find themselves caught in the cycle track when they might be in the Shero. Some additional direction to people as they're entering either southbound, like at Chesterfield, or northbound, right at the city limits.
To be honest, I'd never thought about it. I can look into it to see. Certainly there's no standard sign, but we can think about doing some sort of a custom-made site to clarify. Well, we have a cycle track and a class 3 at the same time. So if somebody, I have to think about it. I certainly don't want to use the word fast. To say if you want to ride faster, use the class 3.
Well, okay.
Think about it.
All right. Yeah, I know you received a letter with some of those suggestions on it, so I appreciate you taking another look at that. Then I also wanted to ask again, any word on I think it was the HSIP grant for Coast Highway between Swamis and Chesterfield? Have we heard anything about that grant?
Well, tonight is a hard night. Officially, no.
Are we going to get it, do you think?
But expect some good news.
Okay, all right,
Okay.
Good. Because if it is not good news, then we need to move ahead with the interim improvements that the Traffic Commission approved and recommended a few months ago. So
no,
I'll wait for the good news. I'll wait for the good news.
And the good news is more than just that.
Yeah, great. Thank you. That's it for me. Appreciate it.
Oh, now I want to know.
No, it's way more than that.
Okay, good.
Good.
We'll wait to hear. All right. I think we should probably move off of item 4 and move on to oral communications, if that's all right with everyone. Oral communications. Amanda, do we have any speakers?
Yes, Chair, we do. We have 7 registered currently, 5 in attendance. So I will start. With John Conover. John, I'll unmute your microphone and you'll have 3 minutes to address the commission. Sorry, you'll have to unmute your microphone. I allowed it, but you'll have to do that. John, can you hear us? I'll go ahead and come back to John. I'll start with Elena Thompson.
Hi, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yes.
Well, hello all, and welcome to the new commissioners. Your backgrounds sound just great for the position, and we're very appreciative for your time as well as the existing commission. So I'm calling because I sent in today the second submittal of the city's very own traffic calming petition. Now, this petition was originally submitted back in November of last year. And frankly, this discussion has been ongoing as long as I've been a Leucadia resident for the last 34 years. This relates to the multiple decade long topic of having La Costa Avenue reclassified as a 2-lane road from the current 4-lane historic classification pre-incorporation. This petition from the community now has 91 signatures numbering 91 addresses of residents and property owners seeking this final action for the reclassification once and for all. This is being brought up for the following reasons. On your follow-up log, you have a line item relating to the reclassification of Vulcan, yet nowhere on your log is the reclassification of La Costa Avenue, and yet it's been requested many times and nowhere noted. Why is that? Number 2, on this same follow-up log, in your agenda report tonight, there's an item related to the circulation element study plan. We've been promised as a community for a long time that the reclassification can't take place until the circulation element study plan is completed. This would be by a third-party consultant that Abe mentioned tonight that won't be achieved for maybe 2 more years, including the need for the city of Carlsbad to weigh in on this. Number 3, the community continues, however, to wait for this reclassification of the road, forever asked for. So what's really going on here? We do not want to wait for 2 more years of developers in neighboring cities to weigh in on our fate, or to be decided by a consultant conducting this study, especially because of the mayor and councilperson Kranz and yourself, Mr. Bandigan, all of you on past and recent record stating that La Costa Avenue will never be a 4-lane road. So let's get on with it and reclassify this now in March. Why are we waiting or needing to wait 2 years, as Mr. Bandigan stated tonight, potentially? It seems highly unwise and unreasonable both to let this important determination linger any longer and potentially leave the fate of this scenic and residential route to driveways, homes, and the beach to a study or outside interest. This is highly unacceptable. I would ask for you tonight, this commission, to put this on your follow-up log, please. You've heard of it enough, including our desire to reduce the speed limit to 25 miles per hour, consistent with other residential streets in Encinitas. And given that we have a new hotel with parking for 220 cars at the bottom of our roadway, and put this on your follow-up log, please. And forgive me if I'm sounding a little rushed. I don't have enough time to really get into this, but I think you get the gist of it. We've been asking for these public safety requests for a long time. And with the looming development, not to mention simply the new hotel, it's very, as you all have used the word tonight, equity. It's very unequitable that this portion of Leucadia is being overlooked and everything is being postponed. And even Mr. Bandigan, you stated tonight that things can't happen and they're happening on a piecemeal basis, and that even residents are going to be able to just walk in the dirt on Vulcan. This is why we have asked for a mobility manager to assist the city to get these key active transportation projects planned and public safety initiatives, including a sidewalk on the only east-west arterial corridor to the beach built. it's really unfair, unwise, unequitable, and just really it's embarrassing that we can't get these things done. So we would thank you for your time, and please ask you again on your follow-up log to add the reclassification of La Costa Avenue, make a determination within the next 30 days or 60 days. Let's get down to talking about the crosswalk at Leucadia, or excuse me, the sidewalk on La Costa Avenue. And let's get that new crosswalk in front of the hotel so we don't put all of our Leucadia residents in the way of hotel guests coming in and out of a new hotel. Thank you very much. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Judy Burl-Fine, followed by Janet Hansen. Judy, you should be all set.
Okay, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Thank you much, and I hope you're still there, but just hidden. Good to hear everything that's going on, and thank you for your attention to all of these multitude of issues across the city. It's really heartening to see all the ways in which you are working to make mobility easier for all of us. I'm kind of following up stated regarding the cycle track. I love that you're paint down on pavement, reminding people of the speed limit, and I really love the idea of the raised crosswalks. I enforce that message letter in public commission. I hope you can understand me because my internet said it was unstable. But my main points that I'm encouraging to lower those speeds that are posted at 35, that we could have electronic speed feedback signs in the corridor to remind people how fast they are going. And then once these measures have been put in place and people know the speed limit has been lowered, that we work with the sheriff's department to actually ticket people who exceed that speed and get the message across clearly. And lastly, in terms of the Sharrows Lane, I've been down there and I've watched people totally confused about where they should go, if they should be in the cycle track or if they should be in the Sharrows Lane. They go in the Sharrows Lane and they stay way to the right, and it's incredibly dangerous. So the letter that Michael von Neumann referred to had some great pictures of putting gobs of paint in the middle of the Sharrows Lane so people see exactly where they're supposed to safely ride. It also had some pictures of ideas for signage on directing people to the either the cycle track or the Sharrow. So thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Next, we have Janet Hansen, followed by Patricia Vasquez.
Yeah, I'm here. I wasn't expecting to get a speaking slot, but thank you for the time. I'd like to confirm what the previous speaker said, that the danger at the intersection of La Costa and Vulcan is a really big concern. I've been a resident here for about 20 years, and my office looks out on La Costa, and I've lost track of the number of accidents that I've heard and then seen. The crashing sounds here are so common, it's ridiculous. And I would really like to see the lower speed limit that everyone's been talking about. My other concern is with the improvements that are proposed for the intersection of La Costa and Vulcan, whether we get a traffic signal or roundabout or something like that. There had been a request that that improvement happen before any apartment building could be built if that Vulcan development goes forward. And I'd just like to emphasize, I agree that should be a priority, that it would not make sense to build those apartments without having the traffic situation helped there. And the last point I'd make, improving the sidewalk access is also a good idea. I walk to the beach pretty much every day, and the new sidewalks by the hotel are nice, but the fact that we can't cross in the other direction is also a problem. So I'll agree with what the previous person said on that too. So thank you.
Thank you.
And next we have Patricia Vasquez.
Hi, good evening, everyone. I'd like to thank the Traffic and Public Safety Commission for their attention to the concerns of Northwest Leucadia residents regarding these traffic and public safety issues, and particularly Commissioner Schultz and Commissioner Prendergast for their very astute questions tonight. They're exactly what we would ask as well regarding the general fund, regarding the 2 versus 4 lane designation, etc. So as many of my neighbors and I have expressed at previous Traffic and Public Safety Commission, Planning Commission, and City Council meetings, we are extremely concerned about the level of development proposed for our very small corner of Northwest Leucadia. We know it will severely impact public safety on the La Costa Avenue corridor. And as you all are no doubt aware, La Costa Avenue is a dangerous corridor with a level of service rating of F in segments. It lacks any sidewalks and protected bike paths. So we're concerned that it's the only legal access point across the railroad tracks for about a 1.5 mile stretch north of Leucadia Boulevard, yet it's extremely dangerous for any of us to cross by foot or by bike. And while we all understand the need for the city to identify sites to add very low and low income housing, we also believe that there is a moral responsibility of our city leaders to do so in a safe and responsible manner. The Maria Village and 1967 Vulcan developments listed in the housing element contribute only 31 low-income housing units in total, but would result in an estimated 1,646 daily additional trips for all of the retail, hotel, and residential units to be added by the projects, which are in addition, by the way, to the 1,200 estimated additional daily trips which are expected with the opening of the Alila Maria Hotel in this already traffic-burdened neighborhood. So as yet, we have still not seen a proposal. We certainly appreciate the fact that Abe has put forth a proposal, but we look forward to seeing something in more detail, and frankly encourage the Traffic and Public Safety Commission and Traffic Engineering to share those proposals before they go to council with Leucadia Cares, which is the neighborhood alliance that has been put together to address this issue. I've also attached a petition signed by neighbors in Northwest Leucadia requesting traffic infrastructure improvements. We urge you all to appropriately fund infrastructure improvements within the current capital improvement budget process. It's really unconscionable for the city to include development projects in the housing element for Northwest Leucadia without an appropriate level of traffic and public safety infrastructure.
Right.
And with that, I want to thank you for protecting the safety and welfare of your neighbors.
Thank you.
And that's our last speaker. John Conover is no longer online in my list of attendees.
All right, thank you, Amanda. Let's move on to item 6, approval of the minutes from our February 8th, 2021 meeting. Do we have any questions, comments? Commissioner Von Neumann, you are muted.
Sorry.
That's okay.
I don't know how, earlier in the meeting, we were told that the only detailed review is for action items. I don't know if that if that also applies to something in Commissioner Corner. I had, at that meeting, we added a commissioner-initiated agenda item to add raised crosswalks with rapid flashing beacons. And I had indicated a number of locations for it, but in the minutes, there's only 2 of them indicated in the minutes. Is that do we need to include all the other ones I mentioned or not?
Certainly, if there is locations missing, then we can certainly revisit and bring back the minutes next time. If you feel there are locations missing, it can be because Amanda goes off of the audio. Well, I think the last meeting was the first one we had video. Does it ring a bell, Amanda? Do you feel there were other locations they might have missed? We can always bring this back next month. The minute doesn't need to be approved now.
It does ring a bell. I was a little bit confused with this part actually. So if you wouldn't mind, that would be great if you could tell me.
Okay.
Yeah.
So in addition to Sheridan and La Costa, and the South Coast Highway near the city border, in between, at the end of Harbaugh Trails and everything, there is South Coast Highway at Las Olas, South Coast Highway at Keyes, entrance to the Cardiff Reef State Beach parking lot, entrance to the South Cardiff State Beach, North Coast Highway and La Costa, Vulcan and La Costa, and La Costa and Sheridan, La Costa and Sheridan, which we've already talked about.
Excuse me, if it's possible, the fact that our traffic log, our commissioner corner items need support of 2 other commissioners to become actual agenda items, I think it would be better to let Amanda listen to the audio again and see which one of these were actually mentioned at that meeting. If all of them are there, she would put them back on the minutes. If for any reason 1 or 2 is missing, we can mention this and you can bring it back at the next commission, and then we can add them to it. Because I'm not sure, technically speaking, you reading off of your list right now, we can amend the minutes like this. I'm not sure.
Okay.
I don't know if it makes sense.
Yeah, that sounds fine to me. Commissioner Von Neumann, does that sound okay?
Sure. Yeah, I went back and reviewed the meeting, and I think I've captured everything. But yeah, Amanda, go ahead and do that. And it was not for the follow-up log. It was a commission-initiated agenda item, which is different than the follow-up log.
Correct. Okay.
I believe.
No, yeah, it is okay. Correct.
All right.
It is correct. But
because
yeah,
I see it was put on the some of it was put on the follow-up log, but we'll talk about that when we get to the follow-up log.
Good point. It was actually my misdirection to Amanda. I apologize for that. But yeah, Amanda, take a look at the video and check the audio, and check with Commissioner Von Neumann to make sure you're capturing everything. If for any reason a location or 2 is not there on the audio or video, we can revisit this at the next commission meeting and add those 2 locations and get 2 commissioners to support it.
Okay, appreciate it. Sorry, Amanda.
No problem.
For the extra work.
It's not a problem. Will do.
Okay, so we'll approve those minutes at our next meeting as amended. And now we can move on to item 7. Action items 7A, revising Encinitas Neighborhood Traffic Management Program.
Thank you, Chair. Amanda, can you share the report? I can't share the Word file.
Sure.
So at our February 24th, I think it was a meeting, the city council meeting where we presented the one update. I guess I could have brought it up during my regular updates. The Eolas and Andrew and Hillcrest intersection. The city council also supported the scenario that was green lighted by the traffic commission, the neighborhood circle option. So we were directed to implement a temporary neighborhood traffic circle there and then go back 6 months after and revisit it. And if it's successful, then we'll go back to city council recommending some sort of a permanent solution there. But that location was the same scenario that traffic commission supported was also supported by city council. At the same meeting, council directed the staff to revisit Encinitas Neighborhood Traffic Management Program. Now, this program, I thought it would be a good idea to kind of take a look at it, because this was a very old program. Not by old, I don't mean obsolete or anything. But it was done before any of us were with the city. It was approved in 2005 by the city council, and at that point, the city did not have a traffic calming program and wasn't actively pursuing different traffic calming projects in the city. So this program was developed to address how the city tackles traffic calming issues and speeding concerns and cut-through concerns around the city. The program, as we kind of will look at it today, the city hired a consultant to form the program. A lot of time and energy and effort was put into this. A very comprehensive and complete program was formed. But when I started with the city in 2018, it was 13 years after the program that was approved, and I think it was implemented only once or twice, if I'm not mistaken. The reason I felt when I checked the history was the program was just a little bit too complicated for easy implementation. While on paper it looks very nice and very reasonable and all the steps make sense, in reality, it's almost too complicated to implement for a lot of, I would say, simpler, less cost prohibitive, I guess, projects that we can have in town and fix things without the need to go through such extensive process that would itself take a lot of time and energy and money and effort from the staff. So that being said, City Council directed the staff to revisit this and modify the program, hopefully with a more implementable program, more simpler, easy to approach, easy to implement program. Can we go to the next page, Amanda? So the process, there is a flow chart that I will walk you through the flow chart. The process, the way it works is a petition is submitted to the city, and the staff would evaluate this petition and find out what the situation is, and then there is a neighborhood committee is formed, a neighborhood traffic coalition, and then there is multiple meetings between the residents and the city to clarify and identify the issue. There is rounds and rounds of data collected, more meetings after the data to go over the data with the coalition. Then there is this scoring criteria to identify the extent of the issue. The location gets scores based on the speed, the cut-through volume, the number of crashes, existence of pedestrian generators, and the existence of sidewalks or pathways. For a total of 100 points, if a location gets 51 points, then it would qualify for traffic calming. Afterwards, there is another round of neighborhood outreach. There's a voluntary campaign to start with softer measures such as education and enforcement. Then the effectiveness is evaluated. Then the project, if it doesn't resolve the issue, a project will be generated off of the toolbox of the neighborhood traffic management program, using different methods, different measures in the toolbox. Then there's the funding process. Is there funding available within the next 3 years? If there is not, if city council wants to shelf this for now, if city council wants to fund it immediately, if there is willing to create a self-assessment district to fund this within the city. So there's like a very, very complicated process. And to just give you a very, I guess, simpler way of understanding how this process is supposed to work, can you, Amanda, share the flow chart? I think it's the last page, or is it an attachment? I think it's the next page.
It's the next page.
Yeah. So this is this is the process of how this ENTMP is supposed to work. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying this doesn't make sense. It does make sense, but for a city that has like 20 people in its traffic engineering division and multi-million dollars in budgets for their traffic projects, for a city like us with 3 people, 4 people in its traffic team, it certainly is a lot of works, and I think that's why the city was not very successful in following this flow chart. And so I really like the idea when council directed us to revisit this. So my goal today was to kind of tell you what the story of ENTMP is, because I don't think during the past 2 years we ever talked about it. What happened is, for our new commissioners, our current commissioners know about this. In 2017, 12 years after this was approved, staff found out that this is not easy to implement. So what was introduced to city council was this thing called the first tier program. The first tier was supposed to be a quick response to these traffic calming requests for locations who actually had issues. So a new program was developed called the first tier speed cushion program of the city. The speed cushions you see around town are basically the first response that we have for these locations that have speeding issues. There is a different criteria. We have, and that program also was modified 2 or 3 times. The current version of the program, there is 5 different criteria. There is the speeding issue, there is the volume of traffic, there is the existence of pedestrian and bicycling facilities, there is the geometry of the roadway, and there is proximity to pedestrian generators. So if a location has 3 out of 5 of these issues, they would qualify for speed cushions. In certain cases, they have to meet, this is the other flow chart. So if they meet 4 out of 5 without having a speeding issue, they still qualify. So this is the new first year speed cushion program. And we just implemented speed cushions with this program. And almost on all of our cases, the speed cushion has resolved the issue. So this is a way simpler program to implement. And what I thought would be a good idea to go over these 2 and talk about the potential to modify and revise the ENTMP. The first thing that came to my mind was to somehow incorporate the first tier, basically the quick response piece, to the ENTMP, because that was the main reason that it wasn't that successful. So somehow find a way to incorporate a quick response, a fast response, low-hanging fruit type of response to the ENTMP, and a bunch of other changes that I thought would be good additions for both making it more approachable and implementable, and also making it more successful. So if you go back, Amanda, to the last page of the report, I had a few ideas. Tonight, we're not going to revise the program. This is an informational item with me asking Commission to provide me their input and suggestions on how they think we can revise this. Obviously, we have to talk about this 2 or 3 more times. Go to the last page of maybe the 4th page, Amanda. This one, yes. So these were the 4 ideas I have for now. Obviously, when I revise the program, I'll have probably more ideas, and I'll change and tweak more things. But the 4 things that I thought we could do was, as mentioned, the first tier currently is not in the ENTMP. So we have to somehow modify the flowchart to say, if we find the problem and if we resolve it with the speed cushions or a speed table, as later on, the program was modified by Traffic Commission, how this works with the ENTMP in general, how we move from the low-hanging fruit from the first tier to the other tiers. The second modification was, okay, if we have a lot of different projects, because when I started, we had a good pot of money that we could use toward traffic calming projects, but with the amount of projects that we did during the past 2-3 years, we're kind of running short slowly on funds, and we now have to start prioritizing projects. So the ENTMP currently doesn't talk about how to prioritize projects and what is the threshold of project that we shouldn't take on by ourselves and we have to go to council. It doesn't talk about how to define a project and how to address a project internally, or just define the project and go to council and ask for funding. So maybe some sort of a clarification on which projects will be done with a certain pot of money that we can set aside for neighborhood traffic calming in the division, and just tackle those smaller, less cost prohibitive projects, and then take the other ones to traffic commissions and city council for prioritization and funding. So that's something that we can certainly talk about in this program. Another one is the measures in the toolbox. There are a lot of different measures, but as you know, many of those measures are not easy to, like a neighborhood roundabout is in there. Obviously, it's not something that, we get a petition about a speeding, we evaluate there is a speeding issue, and then we go out there and do a roundabout. This is not something that is really doable. So we do have measures in there that we cannot implement. So some sort of by not implement, I mean financially, those need like city council approval or budget dedication of their own. So what we can do is to break down those measures in the toolboxes, similar to what we did with the first tier. On the first tier, we just said, okay, speed cushions are the first thing we go to. I'm sure there are some other measures similar to the speed cushion that can be our first tier response. So the first tier maybe can be a few other measures that we can utilize and still be the first tier. And maybe we have a second tier that is a little bit higher level improvements that we can still tackle in-house, or maybe we go to traffic commission and city council, but the funding is already there. And the third tier is something that we don't have the money for, and we would have to introduce a new project to the city's CIP list and fund it by asking from the city council. So some sort of a funding, a combination of, different tiers of traffic calming using different methods based on their cost and based on the energy and effort they need. And at the same time, they can help us with how we prioritize projects. So prioritizing projects is not just only based on the level of the problem that we have, but also the type of response they need. So if we have a very big problem, but the answer to that problem needs $10 million, obviously it shouldn't be prioritized as high as another project that is not as bad, but it can be solved with $10,000. So that's something else that I think we can address with this revision. And then the last one is the current program does not have any way of addressing the success of a project. Clearly, we can do a before and after study, but as you know, many of these projects, the only thing we do is just a speed survey after, and when the speeds go down, we feel like they're successful. Maybe there is another way of evaluating, maybe going by collision history, but obviously that cannot be done in 6 months because the number of records is not enough to evaluate. But there is certainly a better way of evaluating the effectiveness and success of these improvements. That being said, I will revise this program. It will take time, but based on council's direction, I will revisit this program. I will write it again. I don't want to hire a consultant and spend that much money again on creating a program. I'll try to do it in-house and come back, but I thought this would be a good opportunity to go over the program together, give you the opportunity to take a look at it if you have not seen it yet, and receive your input on what you'd like to see in the future version. I don't see the next meeting or the following meeting. We certainly have to talk about this for 2 or 3 meetings to finalize this future program. I'm open to questions.
Yeah, Commissioner Johnson here. I'm kind of baffled as to who's the audience for this program. Is this for the staff members or for the poor citizens who are trying to navigate the thing? It seems way, way, way too complicated and too many details that actually have to be worked out on the spot are done there. I'm sure the consultant did a bang up job on it, and I loved all the pictures of traffic things, but I don't know who this is targeted at.
The program was meant to form a path for residents to contact the city, express their concern about their speeding issue in their neighborhood, and try to find a solution, introduce a project, identify a project, and then fund it. That was the goal of that program. So it was how the residents of a neighborhood would work with the city to make things better in their neighborhood.
Those flowcharts are too complicated for the average citizen to understand. I'd suggest a simpler flowchart with some boxes that say something like a miracle happens here, or better, say, and you have to think about funding levels, because this is a vast program. It's nice, but it's just too complicated. It's my view.
Thank you, Commissioner Johnson. I'll just weigh in really quickly here. This is Commissioner Grover. I agree with what Glenn said. I'm just flipping through this right now. I had reviewed it previously as well. Abe, this document is from 2005, and I'm agreeing with your overall concept of something needs to be updated, fixed, simplified with this program. But the estimated costs that you have in here, I mean, if these are the costs, if a roundabout is $200,000, it's misleading the public. I think if a member of the public could actually find this document, which is probably the first difficult task, and could actually get their neighbors surrounded around this and get one of these recommendations to our Traffic and Public Safety Commission in some reasonable amount of time, they're misled by the cost of these improvements. So at the very least, that needs to be updated. But I think we're so familiar with the first tier portion of the ENTMP, right? Where you have a neighborhood that has a speeding problem. They get a bunch of signatures on a petition. They come to us. We say, yep, speed cushions, would work here. They get speed cushions and we move on to the next. I mean, we kind of did that like clockwork for 3 or 4 years. I haven't seen any of those recently, and I'm kind of wondering why. We used to see those all the time. Maybe they worked and we did them in enough areas. But
that's correct.
So the first tier portion of the ENTMP, I think, is very simple and residents understand that. But the rest of this, flowchart nonsense is very confusing. So however you want to update this, based on your staff recommendation, I would at least support that. But we also need to be sending some sort of message to residents that if they follow all these steps, and the need for some sort of improvement is there, that they're actually going to get it. And again, our decision-making body here does not make those budget decisions. So council needs to weigh in on this at some point. If we're going to have this ultra complicated system and some neighborhood is willing to navigate that for 2 years or something, they sure as heck better get what they want, right? So those are my comments.
A good point about the estimated budget associated with I just added 0 at the end of all of them.
Yeah, pretty much. Anybody else?
Commissioner Von Neumann here. Abe, you mentioned that you think this has only been implemented or utilized once or twice.
I mean, there might have been other locations. I'm just going off of, because I mean, from 2005 till 18 that I started, 13 years. From the files that I've seen, I mean, unfortunately, as you know, when I started, everybody in the previous traffic team had left, and I started the division alone. So there was nobody to pass any kind of institutional knowledge to me. My understanding of what happened the past 15 years comes from the files I've seen in different folders. So I might be wrong.
Well, I wouldn't be surprised at it. I mean, I've heard like there was one project that was done on Gardendale in New Encinitas, and I understand that took years and years to implement, and that was one of the main motivating factors to come up with like the first tier program. That it was too complicated, it was too involved. And I agree with the comments that, like, when I first take a look at this, I go, yeah, I'm not gonna. If I was a resident and concerned about traffic in my neighborhood, I would go, this is very unwieldy. So I like the suggestions that you had. I think they can be incorporated into it. You know, the four things that you had mentioned. I think that's good. But also, I would actually even go back to, you know, the introduction, the mission of it, the purpose of it, and everything. Because when I read all that, my first impression was that it's supposed to be geared toward residential streets, which is good, and it's supposed to emphasize non-motorized vehicle usage and making the streets safer for that. But then there are a number of places inside the text and everything where it says, but cars have to be able to have quick access and speed to get to other areas. So it's like it's too auto-centric in my mind. And I know just wordsmithing and things like that, but that might be worth going and looking at and see if that is the message that we want to give. That part of this program is to make it better for automobiles. But I think it also puts the responsibility of initiating any changes on residents. And quite frankly, I think it's really part of the city's responsibility to evaluate their roads and see where the problems are, and then maybe contact the citizens also. Because right now we've been in a reactive mode for forever. Like it seems like things only get done as a reaction and not enough proactive types of things. The city knows, residents know what the cut-through areas are, and that's a main point of this program, is to address those areas, those streets and residential areas that are utilized as cut-through traffic, and to reduce the speeds in those areas. So I think it's great to take a look at this. I think it's going to take a little more than 2 or 3 meetings for you guys, for your massive department of 3-4 people to take a look at. So I'm not expecting anything to happen real soon, but I am encouraged that you guys are taking a look at it, and I greatly appreciate it. But I would take a look at it and try to make sure that it's easier and friendlier to residents, because the way it's set up now, it's like set up to fail. Thank you.
This is Prendergast. I think that's a great suggestion. I think it'd be a little overwhelming to go through the document and change or update all the dollar amounts. You know, I was just kind of sorting through the document, and certainly it says that a traffic circle is $160,000, but there's all these other curb build outs and things like that. Is it overwhelming, Abe, to update these costs? I know everything changes, but I think it's managing expectations of the citizenry to think like, hey, you know, I want a speed bump. All right, well, a speed bump costs $10,000. And, you know, just remember on your request that some of the things cost money, and managing those expectations, I think, puts things into a different perspective. If someone comes in and asks for, you know, a traffic circle, like all of us in Liebenheim, you know, we realize it's going to take a city council budget to approve that a couple of years out. And I think managing those expectations are going to be important. As it relates to the roundabouts, Abe, did the city did this get used when the roundabout on Devonshire was put together, or the roundabouts on Leucadia were put together, or is that just something that the city council did by themselves? And was this implemented any other time?
Good question. When I looked at the process for the Leucadia roundabouts, it seemed like it didn't really follow this. Devonshire, I'm not sure, but I don't think the Leucadia roundabouts did follow the exact process of the ENTMP.
Thank you. It's a great idea.
Other commissioners?
Benson.
Commissioner Benson?
Basically what I'm hearing, I want to echo something that Michael said and Bob. What I'm basically hearing here is that the only part of the ENTMP that works is the first tier program, and it's not really actually even part of the original program. And what I'm basically hearing is that you're gonna have to basically rewrite this entire thing, and go for it. I think that the plan that you've laid out is really good. And the thing that I want to echo that Michael said is, I think it would be wise to just completely take out prices, because those are never going to stay fixed. And then I think that I would, if I were a resident in this situation, coming to whether it be the city council or the traffic or staff or the traffic commission, what I would like is to have my my grievance heard, and then the solutions workshopped amongst the staff, as opposed to my neighborhood needing to sort of take on wear the hat of an engineer or something like that. And I like the idea of having different levels of ideas, types of traffic calming measures that we might be able to pick and choose from. But I do think that there's an element that needs to be baked into this, that is the city sort of being proactive slash what am I trying to say? Cooperative with the neighborhood and trying to figure out what the solution is going to be. So yeah, take a stab at it. I think the outline that you've laid out works great. And I'm not sure that there's anything in the original document that's really going to do much to direct you towards it.
I support what you're doing. I think it needs to be simplified in many ways, and I think that's the direction you're headed. When I got to the place where there was a Woonerf, I think I'm pronouncing that right, I went, okay, this has gotten a little bit too much. What? And don't tell me what a Woonerf is. They had a picture, but I can't imagine it. I think the simplification and taking prices off and eliminating those things that are just ridiculous, is a good idea. I support what you're doing.
I do as well. I'll chime in just since everyone else has. But yeah, absolutely. This is way, way too complicated.
All right. So does anybody want to make a motion? Sounds like we're generally supporting Abe's desire to clean this thing up. Who wants to make a motion?
I'll make a motion that Abe can clean this thing up.
All right. Anybody want a second?
I'll second it.
All right. All in favor? Aye.
Yes.
Any opposed?
Aye.
None. Motion passes unanimously. Have fun, Abe.
Yeah, last time it was done with a consultant and a bigger traffic team, and it took around 6 to 9 months, I think. So I'll be back in 2024.
Yeah, I think we need to focus on getting our own, city's big projects done before we try to make this easier for people to understand. But that's just me. Okay, let's move on. That was the only action item. We have item 8, the follow-up log.
Yes. So, Amanda, can you share the log? I have the log here, but I can't share it. So, yeah, a few items. The Vulcan Avenue reclass. I think I mentioned, Alina mentioned something about, I heard Alina mention something about Vulcan Avenue reclassification being on this list. Just want to clarify for our new commissioners, our existing ones, they probably already know. So this topic, because the log is a bit brief and summarized, it might not be that clear. So the reclassification of Vulcan on the log is not similar to reclassification of La Costa. We got this direction from the city council and the traffic commission a long time ago to evaluate the possibility of lowering the speed limit citywide at high-speed corridors. What we did was we checked different options. We're obviously doing our traffic calming methods and incorporating different measures to lower the speed limit. What we thought was a very good opportunity that many cities have not utilized is to use this code that we have in California Vehicle Code that authorizes cities to classify roads as residential and business districts and lower their speed limit to a prima facie 25 mile per hour. Now, this is not a general plan roadway classification. This is only for the purpose of setting a speed limit. A residential district per California Vehicle Code is a roadway, I think, which in a quarter mile has around, I think, 16 residential properties in one side, or well, I don't want to mention. I don't want to mention it on the record. I don't know the exact number, but there is a certain number of units that it says it has to have on one side, or it gives you a bigger number if it has the bigger number on both sides. And if that's the case, and with the business district is similar, but it talks about the GLA, the leasable area, and the business property area. So if you have a certain number of square footage for your business properties adjacent to the property within the quarter mile, then it can be classified as a business district, like something similar to downtown where you have like businesses side by side. In these cases, no matter what the actual classification of the road is on your general plan, per CVC, my understanding is you don't need to do a speed survey, and you can post them at 25 mile per hour prima facie. That's what I had 2 meetings with our risk management team and with the city attorneys, and I provided them all the information. Because this is such a, I guess, out of the box type of thinking, and not that many cities, I don't think any city in the county has done this. They're taking their time, our attorneys, they're evaluating, they're talking to other city attorneys around the county, checking challenges and court cases to see what our options are. If we can do this, if I get the green light for this, then I'll bring a big item to the traffic commission that would introduce a lot of different residential districts and business districts in the city, together with new proposed prima facie 25 mile per hour speed limits for them. Downtown Encinitas, Cardiff, Vulcan, San Alejo, Liverpool, Chesterfield, Birmingham, Lake Drive, Santa Fe, Lone Jack. I don't know. Well, many of these, I don't know about Lone Jack. Many of these roads that North 101 that you have the business, the restaurant row in South 101. Many of these do meet the criteria, back of a napkin calculation, do meet the criteria for a business district or a residential district, and they can be classified as such. And if we have the green light, then we can change all of the speed limits at all of these streets overnight. By overnight, obviously, we have to go through the ordinance process. But what I mean is they don't need a survey supporting the 25 mile per hour prima facie. So the reclassification, sorry if you took me long, the reclassification that you see on the first row is not similar to the reclassification of La Costa that the residents of the city want, that can only come from a general plan circulation element update. Or there might be another way that I don't know of, but this is not that. That being said, the 2 first rows about reclassifying Vulcan and the possibility of adding pavement legends for speed limits and eliminating high speeds in the city, those are pending green lights from the attorneys. I have done my homework. I have done my studying. I sent all the vehicle codes and the government codes and everything and any other code to our attorneys. As soon as I hear back from them, some sort of a support, I'll proceed full speed ahead. And the first stop would be traffic commission. You will be seeing a map that shows all these roads of the city that do qualify, and then we go from there. Any question on this before I go to the next one? Okay. The next one, the evaluating a new crosswalk at San Alejo. We are looking at a few locations. We're looking at Cornish on San Alejo. We're looking at Verde. We will soon conduct a new round of data collection. Things are getting back to normal with the vaccination and everything. The volumes are increasing. So as soon as we have some good numbers, we'll do another analysis and we'll come back. We have a plan for Verde with the Verde underpass, but since that one is not going to happen very soon, we might have the opportunity to do the crossing ourselves sooner before the underpass goes in. The next item, the circulation element update. As mentioned, I will update you as we go forward. I already talked to the project manager. We will have continuous involvement of traffic commission. I don't think the consultant had its first meeting with the city yet. The kickoff meeting, I don't think it has happened. But as they progress, I am pretty sure we will have a very, very active involvement by the traffic commission. The council already directed the project manager and the department director to involve traffic commission. So we will hear a lot more about the circulation element in the future month, maybe a quarterly update or something like that, but maybe even more frequent based on the stage they're at and the need for input. Update on the cycle track 101. Commission directed us to put this as a standing item. I'll update you more. The e-bike policy, I'm doing some research. I am talking to our risk management, our park and rec department. They've done some work. We will merge all these together to come up with some sort of a citywide policy for e-bikes. Not there yet. Crosswalk evaluation at La Costa and Highway 101. This is the diagonal crossing that the commission suggested we evaluate. And the last one, this is, I think, the item that Commissioner Van Neumann mentioned. I asked Amanda to put it in the log. I guess we didn't have any location for a commissioner-initiated item to bring back to commission. I guess we can create a second table in here. But yeah, this is the item that Commissioner Van Neumann mentioned for evaluating other locations in town that can benefit from raised crosswalks and RFPs. I'm open if there are any questions with the log.
Questions? Thank you, Abe.
Commissioner Von Neumann here. Abe, last month there was an item on the log. It was like item number 27 that seems to have disappeared. And that was, it specifically said to eliminate the 45 and 55 mile an hour speed limits in the city. And it was supposed to be taken care of in March or by March.
Oh, I think there was an item that commission suggested we merge. If you check item number 30, it's actually the merger of the item you mentioned with the other one. Since all of these are tied with the whole citywide lowering the speed limit, the attorney thing.
Okay, all right, that's cool.
Yeah, it's still on there. It's just merged 27 and 30, I think, yeah.
Yeah, it makes sense. Okay, I just wanted to make sure. Thank you.
Anybody else? No one? Abe, one thing, an oversight on my part. I didn't ask Amanda on our action item if we had any public speakers. I hope we didn't. Otherwise, I'll feel like an idiot. Did we, Amanda?
She would have said if we had.
We didn't.
Okay. Okay. Great. Sorry about that.
Can I ask you quickly? We have someone who wanted to speak on the follow-up log. I'm not sure if that's allowed.
It is allowed.
It is. We used to have somebody speak on the follow-up log on a regular basis. It's
Okay,
We
definitely
used to have somebody who would speak on the
Murphy.
adjournment.
Okay, thank you. So I do have a speaker for that when it's a good time.
Now's a good time.
Yep, now's good.
Okay, great. Elena, you should be all set to speak now.
You hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, this is Elena Thompson again. I'm tired too, by the way. I've stuck with your meeting, and on the follow-up log, I am following up on item 30, and this kind of dovetails into this agenda item 7 on the ENTMP. And this specifically relative to follow-up log item 30, the question is, what's happening with reducing the speed limit on La Costa? How soon can we anticipate that 25 mile per hour, since there's 45 driveways and probably 6 residents total on La Costa Avenue? And that, I think it's fine to kind of do this, but we're looking as residents for specifics. That would be great. And then tied into this, you know, in terms of overall speed limits and whatnot, and listening to the residents and their concerns about speed cushions on agenda item 7 relative to the ENTMP, I would really just ask this group, and particularly the new people, encourage you all to focus not on a plan that was written in 2005 and have Abe go back and work on it. For heaven's sakes, we have what's called the active transportation plan today. We need to toss any plan from 2005 versus resuscitate it, and focus on the recently invested in active transportation plan. I think that to go 2005 is an unnecessary diversion. It's incongruent with the city council's core priorities, if they have specified in quotes core priorities of active transportation and mobility. And you know, most importantly, it would be a waste of Abe's time and the residents' time looking back rather than forward. Let's look through the front windshield, not the rear view mirror. And I would also suggest that whether it's the speed limit on La Costa that we're still waiting for an answer on, but that priorities are based on public safety. Abe was mentioning that, you know, he's not sure really how to prioritize things or how the commission should prioritize things. But our friend was just run over and killed on Leucadia Boulevard in the bike lane, November 28th. And as far as I'm concerned, this city and this commission, and I applaud you all for your focus on mobility and active transportation, but let's focus on public safety and let's focus on keeping people alive on our roadways. And that is, we should be prioritizing not a speed cushion on some remote little street, albeit important, but we should be prioritizing speeds, traffic signals, roundabouts on our major corridors where the most number of people are traveling and where the highest risks are. And so, you know, I don't mean to keep ringing the La Costa Avenue bell, but that would be certainly one of the bells. And there's many more throughout this city. So in closing, I want to really thank you all, but encourage you to go back and can your motion to have Abe go back and focus on the ENTP. You know, we have a master bike plan from 2005 and it's a shelf copy. Let's not resuscitate that. Let's use our taxpayer funded current editions of the ATP and go forward from there, please. And let's also listen to the residents. We're talking about what we'd like to see. So why would you ask us what the process is for what we want to see? Okay, it's easier than that. And I just am so happy that you're all there for us. And I'm sorry to be a little short-winded here, long-winded, whoops. But, you know, our friend was killed on our roadways. And so we need to get this right and we need to get it right now. Okay. So thank you for your time and thank you for listening to me. I'm sorry to go on and on. Bye.
Thank you. Anyone else, Amanda, or it was just one speaker?
Just the one, thank you.
Okay. Commissioners, any other comments or questions on the follow-up log? Okay, hearing none, we can move along to Commissioner's Corner. And for the two new commissioners, just so you guys know, Commissioner's Corner, I'm just going to kind of wing it. Abe, tell me if I'm describing this incorrectly, but this is really just a forum for us to bring up any items that we may want to give any additional flavor on, or really just to discuss anything, but not really make motions on it because it wasn't agendized. So it's sort of a little bit of a gray area. We just talk about stuff. Anybody want to describe it a little better than I just did?
Yeah, something to add, Chair, is if a commissioner wants to agendize an item, this would be the time they can bring it up. If they have support from 2 other commissioners, they can add an item to log, or they can create an item, a commissioner initiated item.
Good point, Abe. Thanks for bringing that up.
And John,
I'll just start things off here. I had 2 things on my list. One of them is I watched a city council meeting. I forget, it was almost a month ago now, and they're talking about changing the name and the vision of this commission. Abe, I don't know if you have any information for us on that, or if it's to be determined. But just wanted to make sure that we were all aware of the changes that are going to be happening to our commission.
I did hear about it, but I'm not aware of any actual change in the scope or how we operate, or, I mean, I did change about a title change, but that was the extent of it. I'm not sure if there has been any active changes in how we operate or how we work.
Glenn Johnson here. When I watched that council meeting on the replay, and I think the comment was that public safety, we've not done a good job of public safety, and I do believe that the fire department is responsible for public safety, and they spend full time, pretty much every one of them, training and reviewing incidents. So I don't even know what kind of oversight we might value added for them. So I think that dropping the term public safety gives us a chance to focus more on the traffic issues that are really the bane of our city these days. Does that sound right?
Commissioner Von Neumann here. I believe that some of the discussion at the City Council was that we focus, or suggested that we focus on traffic, because that seems to be what takes up most of our time, but also look at overall mobility and the safety of traffic and mobility. Making our roads safer, making them so that people feel safer and are safer using alternative modes of transportation other than motorized vehicles. So that was what I got out of the comments from the City Council about changing our focus and things like that. Tony Kranz, the district representative up in Leucadia, I believe he said that he was the impetus to adding public safety to the Traffic Commission role many years ago. But at that meeting recently, he said that he doesn't think that that's valid anymore. And he doesn't, he said it was a failure to try to combine the two.
Yeah, I think that's so. And as I recall, Carlsbad 8 or 10 months ago changed the public safety in the name of their commission to mobility. So I think this has to be put on the agenda for a future meeting to say what we're going to do, but I would suggest that we change the name of the commission and also review the description of it, because the description has a lot of things about safety. And I think we want to have things about mobility for people and goods and alternative things rather than bicycles. And I think bicycles and electric bicycles are part of our purview.
Yeah.
So
Sorry, I don't know if there's like an order we're going in.
No, no order.
That's a motion.
Assuming we drop the public safety, and if you look at the website, the description of what the commission does, it does talk a lot about traffic, but it also talks about emergency response. I think things that could sort of be categorized as oversight of maybe our police departments. I mean, I realize we do not have a city police department, but that kind of realm, if we're not doing it, then who is? Because I guess I'm just sort of curious.
Yeah.
Before we kind of drop that from our list of responsibilities, is there another commission? Do you know what the plan was there?
As I look at the city organization chart, the fire department has also the police, the sheriff's service reports to the fire department, and the marine safety reports to the fire department. So it's kind of necessary, it's kind of obvious that the fire chief is on top of this stuff. And we're the latecomers. You know, if we review something a month after they've done their accident review, it doesn't help.
Who oversees the fire
My
department?
iPad is dying, so I'm going to have to leave.
Oh.
It is almost dead.
Okay, Robert,
Yes, sir.
fire department gets their budget from the city council every year.
Okay.
And I suspect that money is what this is about.
Hey, this is Commissioner Grover. Just to, I don't want to violate any. I don't know how much we can discuss this in Commissioner's Corner, but why don't I just go ahead and ask that we have this added as an item that goes on our follow-up log. And if I have two other commissioners that agree with me, Abe, maybe you can get. Thank you. So we have three. Abe, if we could get Councilmember Kranz or the mayor, somebody to maybe present to us next month on the intent. Obviously, we serve at the discretion of the council. And so anything that, you know, they intend to do or restructuring of commissions is their prerogative. But it's a little bit odd that there was a conversation going on about renaming this commission and changing the vision, et cetera. And, you know, I think some of us, I watched it just by happenstance, but it would be good to be given an update on what's happening to our own commission.
Agreed. However, the fact that our traffic commission is a muni code, I think it's simpler to assume any kind of a title change or a scope change or, you know, operation-wise, anything, if it's going to change, there would be an ordinance required. And that's where we would know. I mean, I guess we can ask council to start to initiate, you know, modifying or revising the muni code. But as far as I know,
all that I'm saying is I think our commissioners, we want to have a discussion about it, and the proper forum for that discussion is not in Commissioner's Corner. It's probably on an agendized item. And with whoever initiated this, one of the council members to, you know, kind of have that discussion along with us, if that's possible. That's all I'm asking for.
Okay, so the traffic log item would be for me to check with the city council and mayor for an opportunity for representatives of council to attend our meeting to discuss this potential change in the title and the scope.
Correct.
Okay.
Commissioner Von Neumann here. I wanted to respond to Matthew's question, like what commission takes over the public safety aspect of it if it is dropped, and that was not addressed at that meeting. So
yeah, and all that I'm saying is because I agree. I have that same question. I think we should discuss that you know, at our next meeting with some context provided by the council member or the mayor, whoever, you know, had that idea.
Okay, Commissioner Johnson here. I've observed, I have been a member of Encinitas CERT, and I've toured the fire stations and learned how they operate. And I really admire the fact that they can roll out and take care of whatever the disaster is just so quickly and be well organized. And if another engine company shows up, everyone knows what to do. They do a lot of training for this stuff. And so I would suggest that the fire department, there is, I think, some staff as well as the fire department involved. If they want a commission for safety, have one for safety.
Okay. All right. Does anybody else have anything, or should we move on to adjournment?
Commissioner, go ahead, Marty. Sorry.
I'll be very quick. I just wanted to echo something that both Michael and the public speaker, Judy Burlfine, mentioned. I would love to see what you came up with, Abe. I'm not sure how to get people to actually take the full lane, but if we could come up with some signage for South 101 that would encourage people to, that would tell them what's coming up and then encourage them to take the full lane instead of sort of riding on the shoulder next to the buffer, like I see a lot of people doing. I think that that's a really dangerous situation. If we can figure that out, then we can do it in Leucadia too, because I see people riding in the door zone there all the time. That's all.
Okay, thanks, Marty.
Commissioner Prendergast here for a couple things for the corner. I saw on your earlier agendas in the past that the sheriff was going to come and give some updates. As a new commissioner, I'd love to know where the accidents and where the pinch spots are in the city. Is that something that's mapped, or where we can see that graphically where the pinches are? Obviously, there was some concerns in Leucadia, and I know there have been some accidents in there, and then there was a death on the 101 in downtown. So is there some historical reference point that I can go to get caught up to speed? I'd just like to know really where some of these problems are really happening.
Yes, Commissioner, we do have a database and also a map that we can provide.
Great, thank you.
Can I see that as well?
Here. One of the things I'm noticing on the circulation element as it's starting to shape up is that this commission ought to be in the driver's seat, and it seems like we're being put in the trailer. Can we be more proactive on the circulation element? Perhaps have it a standing item on the agenda or set up a subcommittee? What do you think, Brian?
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you, Glenn, and Abe. I know you've heard us say this multiple times, myself especially over the last however many years. I think if you ask any of us traffic and public safety commissioners who the consultant is that's preparing the circulation element update and on what schedule and what their task is, I don't even know the answer to that. And I'm the chair of the Traffic and Public Safety Commission. How do we insert ourselves into this process so that we're not in the trailer, as Commissioner Johnson just said? I completely agree with that. And I don't know how we do that without being a little more abrasive.
Assertive.
To be honest, I kind of feel council did clarify that they wanted a more active role for the traffic commission in this during the meeting that the contract was being awarded. I think it was about 2 or 3 weeks ago when they asked questions about the potential consultant, and they brought up this idea about the traffic commission involvement by a lot. They actually thought I was the project manager at that meeting, but then it was clarified that no, it's something that is handled by our planning side. Our planning team is very capable. It's a very strong team, and naturally, since it's a planning document, it's handled by our planning team. But they involved me and the engineering team, also Steve Nowak, our principal, is in charge of our development process. They involved us from the get-go. However, to your point about how we can create an clear active role for the commission, I feel like what can be the solution is council, because I think planning commission would have to, in the end, approve this before it goes to city council. I don't think traffic commission by law has to approve this. So maybe city council can direct the project manager to form some sort of a committee that includes members from the planning commission, members from the traffic commission, or it can be a joint meeting that we have every other month or something. I don't know. Some sort of a clear direction has to come from council that, hey, we won't evaluate this, we won't look at this study if it's not blessed or green lighted by this group. And then that would give you, the hammer that you're after. But that cannot come from me, at least. I mean, maybe the project manager is willing to do so for her own, success. She would come to me and say, hey, Abe, I think I want to create this subcommittee to go over the consultant's progress. I wanted to include a few members of the planning commission and a few members of traffic commission. I can certainly bring this up and mention to my director and say, this is the idea of the traffic commission. They want more active involvement. But then again, to give you some sort of a approval authority or blessing authority, a serious stop at different stages of the study, being totally honest, I don't think we're there yet. And it's a little bit above my authority to force it. It's something that either has to come from, I guess, our director, maybe a project manager by herself makes this decision. I don't know if she feels comfortable making this decision to create such a stop on her own for the progress of the study. I think the easiest would be council, and I kind of feel council already, likes this idea, but has not given the clear direction to staff.
So Abe, how do we, like if somebody on the street goes up to any of us and says, hey, what's the schedule for the circulation element update? Who's preparing it? Shouldn't we be able to answer those questions?
Oh, I agree. But at the moment, the most I can do is send an email requesting this from the project manager. She is not required to accept. Council has not clearly directed her to do so. I don't know if I can convey the message. The process is not established. The process of traffic commission's involvement is not established. Now, again, the fact that I know council likes this idea, I encourage you to just, because we do have this commissioner initiated item, it can easily be something that commission would write a letter to council with the commissioner's signature that we want this role. It would be, presented to the city council, and city council can make action on it, can take action on it, can direct the project manager or the department. The Department of Development Services is hereby directed to create a subcommittee or create a joint meeting every other month with the planning commission to go over progress of this study. I don't know how council wants to do it. I'll do whatever I am authorized to do, but my hands are kind of tied. I'm not the project manager. I don't have any role other than a support role for this project.
So let me be clear. It's being led by the planning department. Who in the planning department is the person who's been identified to be the lead?
Her name is Jennifer Gates. She's a principal planner in charge of this project.
Thank you.
And it's not a different department. Our development services department has two branches. One branch is engineering, who is led by the city engineer. One branch is the planning, who is led by the city planner.
And that's Jennifer.
No, Jennifer Gates is a principal planner.
Got it.
She's at my level per se. The city planner is Roy Sapa. She's our deputy director and the city planner. She's Jennifer's boss. Yeah, he's Jennifer's boss.
Okay, so Abe, this is Commissioner Grover again. I believe at either our last commission meeting or possibly the one before that, we formed a subcommittee on this, and I think it's at least myself and Commissioner Johnson. That there might be one more. So why don't we just have that subcommittee of this commission draft up a letter as you mentioned, and send that to council asking for, you know, kind of the barriers to be removed and regular updates and our, you know, proactive involvement in the process instead of reactive seeing it when the cake's already been baked.
Absolutely, yeah. Again, I'm pretty sure Jennifer, as soon as she gets some sort of a direction, she will follow. It's just, I mean, again, the process is not there. But as soon as she gets some sort of a direction from council or from even our director, or even our city manager, I mean, I don't know how it can work out, but like anybody, if she gets a clear direction on how to involve the traffic commission, she will.
Okay, great. So Commissioner Johnson, you and I want to take this one on?
Definitely. I think our function in the city is to represent the citizens, and being put in the back seat means that we're not providing the right for our constituents.
Okay. Great.
Okay, Brian.
Anything else?
Commissioner Von Neumann here. Sorry, one more thing. Abe, when you were going over the follow-up log, and you were talking about, you know, reclassifying Vulcan as a residential street and the work you're doing with the city and the attorneys and all that, is one of those streets possibly La Costa Avenue also?
Again, back of a napkin, we haven't done the exact, you know, because it's, again, based on the number of units, the number of driveways, the length of the corridor. We did some back of a napkin calculations. I feel La Costa can qualify too, based on the number of units it has.
So there's a good chance that it might be a residential street.
Yeah, because it's a simple math. Again, the residential district, that's what I want to mention on the record again. This residential district will not be the circulation element classification of the road. This will be just for the sake of establishing a speed limit per California vehicle code.
Right.
This is not,
That's fun. But the residents definitely want a 25-mile-an-hour speed limit. And if that can be accomplished this way, then that's good.
Exactly. That I mean, that's such a bold move that I'm sure like a lot of, you know, city engineers and traffic engineers around the county would hear about it. We will have challenges at court, but again, if we are successful, I'm sure a lot of changes will happen around the city, around the county.
Well, go for it. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Anybody else? Should we move on to adjournment?
I move this, Commissioner Von Neumann. I move that we adjourn.
Second.
All right. All right. We've got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Any opposed? None opposed. All right. Good meeting, everyone. Nice meeting you two new commissioners. Welcome to the group.
You too.